filming, should be alright.
Wait, okay. Found this quote. Title is one of the particularly cool parts, which I thought was cool. But through this, I found loads of things that I didn't really know about web design typography, so I tried to learn more. And then I'm just going to show you more of the web design stuff, because I didn't really know that before. But I come up with a fun game from the start. Which is this. Now we're going to guess the little lines for it. So,
Leading.
what do we think that's called?
A curvature.
Shut it up. Cancer. No, no sweets for you.
The next one's curvature.
What do you think this one is? I think it's the B.
Baseline.
Bevel.
No, you get a plate.
Forward.
Yeah.
A what?
Sweet you are.
What's it called?
A bowl.
A bowl.
Oh, the space is the counter.
What about this little bit here?
The.
In normal terms, you find it in an airport and it begins with T.
Hostess.
Terminal.
Oh.
Sweet. What is it?
Toastess.
Terminal. Who wants a sweet? You got it.
Mine.
Okay.
I'll have a fizzy cherry.
This is an easy one. What's this?
Curvature.
No. When two letters come together and it's like a set piece.
Two become one.
Yes. Good.
A what?
What is it?
Ligature.
Ligature.
Yeah. A ligature is like a simple glyph. So
Just one.
when it's original, like when it came up with typesetting, like when there was two F's together, it would be hard to put in it, break it with the typesetting. So they came up with a ligature, which is two letters that put into one space. Oh, sorry, Cyrus! Woo! Everyone was asleep. What's this bit?
Descendant.
Yay!
A what? Tim, you're angry.
It's not even.
Anything for sweets.
Okay. What's the bit where the S is, the middle bit of the S?
Curvature. No. I
You've got one in your back.
Have I got it?
Yay!
Bloody hell.
Okay, what's the bit
Always eating
in the
them.
middle of the I?
Sansa.
What?
No.
Oh.
Sands.
What?
What do we have?
Flat. Yeah, stem.
Good guess. Good guess.
Okay, we're now going to go with the game. What's wrong with this image typographically?
Okay.
The Nivea logo.
The ends out of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, the space between the stretch.
I'll take that.
Okay, so the space between the N and the I here, even though it's the official Nivea logo, the coding's really up on it. So like, basically when you have two letters, this big gap here just looks a bit off, so I don't know why they set it like that. So basically, with kerning, like that's, if you just typed in avoid this normally, that's how it would go. You'd get that big space, like when you're just typing it into Illustrator. This would come like this, and you'd get a bit of a big gap here, and you've got the two straight lines. You find it from here and here. So basically, you want it to be curved, you bring in these lines, and you bring in this little bit here as well.
Why?
Why? Otherwise, it just doesn't look right.
It looks alright to me.
But for like legibility and just for neatness, it's a bit spacey.
So you're meant to do it.
Yeah.
Nivea didn't do it.
Nivea didn't do it, no.
So what Nivea did was just.
But if you look at the Nivea,
Yeah,
there's like loads of diagonals.
They've just not, they've not.
They could have done it.
So they have loads of
I
diagonals.
saw someone sitting on the other day that like couldn't believe how bad Nivea was. But you'll see it around, like sometimes people forget, especially about the big billboards, people won't remember to kern them properly, because like if it's just on a word on a page, you won't really notice, but when people put it on like the side of the bus, you'll notice it a lot. Something to know. What's wrong with this?
What's wrong with the D's?
The Y.
Everything. No, I just did it as an example of the
C's are much different.
basically, sometimes like another thing that I've seen wrong with like typography and I've got a blog is most people don't really associate different types with having a different phrase. So you wouldn't really want to write old lady in this really kind of funky old font. It just wouldn't look right. Like some sort of different typefaces have got certain connotations that you've got to be aware of, or you play with them too in your design, but you just have to be aware of the different things some people might do. So for example, you wouldn't really want like fairy written like
Iron Maiden.
Iron Maiden, because it's got certain connotations towards a certain word. So like if you were creating a logo for a company, you'd want to be aware of the certain things that like different typefaces are saying. For example,
Halloween.
modern fits quite well like that because it's made out of a modern typeface. So you could like you can play with it, and of course like there's always scope to break the rules, but when you're looking at things, you could be kind of aware of what's going on and like history-wise or something.
Can I ask, like, when you typed that one out, did you change the kerning on it?
Basically, because on you can't change the kerning, so
Because that
some things have happened.
but that looks right.
The O doesn't. The O and the D doesn't.
But the space between the M and the
Should
N
maybe
and the
talk about
M and
that.
the R.
Yeah,
Did
the rest.
actually.
That's
I think I tried to get most of it just because I thought if I was teaching about coding and it was really off that you found. But so basically, if you want to learn more about that sort of things, like on Adobe, there's a website that I can give you where it just talks about the old different types of fonts. So you can look at things that were computer related, things that were black letter, and like different connotations around different fonts. So if you're ever making a logo, it's quite a nice website to learn a bit more about it.
Where did the shape of the letters come from? I was thinking about this last night.
The shape of the different letters.
Like A, where did that shape come from?
I think it's like within, I suppose like all like the first types of text. If you look at old manuscripts, like they have like evolved more, but like it was more from like handwriting in languages. But if you think about it, like Chinese isn't the same as.
But new hieroglyphics.
The A
it was based on like basic pictograms, like communication. So like A is based on a bull, I think.
A bull.
For some like specific reason.
Oh,
But each
sweet.
letter like represent like a picture, and it was based like from what something looked like to communicate it through that, and then the type developed from that.
Oh wow.
You can
You
Google
can
it.
find it. Yeah.
Look, the horn on the A.
But
It's like from a portrait.
I feel like I've been talking to you about like the way that different things can, different shapes can bring on things. I also like what I'd show you, like probably all see the Book of Shade logo, which is just actually just a lot of different shapes. Maybe Book of Shade one. But now it's been formed to mean something, so you could just have something that had no connotation and then make it really synonymous, and that's what like kind of why logos have something. So say if someone wrote something in a Coca-Cola style way, people will obviously like associate that with Coca-Cola more now. And like you can kind of really take your own and then play with it and experiment a bit more. What's wrong with this?
The leading.
It's the leading, sweet for joy. Oh, dick.
That could have been awful.
Face plant on film. That would have been funny anyway.
Okay, so basically, yeah, the leading, like, when the leading's really, basically what's wrong with this, like some people might like design stuff to be like this, but when the leading's like really small, the legibility goes down, especially if this is in a website or in a form of text, so the legibility is squashed, just makes it really hard to read, especially if you're having one piece at a time. So it looks a lot better like this.
That's just gibberish.
Is there a particular kind of thing that we should look out for when providing that, like the amount of
So I think like generally like the rule that I was taught when I was looking at setting it into magazines is that say if you had a 14-point type, the least you'd go must be about like 12 or like 12 underneath it. So it just has to be depends, like different fonts will be different. So you need to look at the different way it is. But if you're looking at a bit more research into the website, you generally want to give it a lot more space because like legibility becomes less when you're reading on the screen. So basically, when you're doing stuff, you've got to give it a balance between what you want your style to be and how much you've got to fit onto a page and what works best for the user and what's best to be read in different places.
Is that hipster Ipsum?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell.
But basically, leading came from when they were setting type in the olden days. They put pieces of lead between the middle. So that's beautiful. Okay, but then you've got artists like or type designers like David Carson. Got it in there, like he completely comes out with the rules, so he doesn't really care about leading or kerning or anything like that because he just mashes up loads of different type together. So there's always different people that had write the rules. But David Carson was quite famous because in the 90s he just like basically took magazine design and just like thought, I'm just going to do it my way. He wasn't really taught as a designer, he just thought I'm going to like really play with it and just go a bit crazy. What would I give you for an example? Okay. What's wrong with this sentence that apart from spelling and grammar?
The last word at the bottom.
Widow.
Okay?
It's got a widow.
So, anything else?
What's a widow?
Wait, what's a widow, sorry?
When there's one word on its own.
One word on the one line.
Something else wrong with it.
The pretty space.
What? No. Yeah, kind of. They want that. But the I is also wrong. Yes, the widow's there. So everyone was sleeping now. Generally,
Lecture.
they don't want sweet again.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's past the bad one.
Is it
Yeah.
You have three?
Yeah.
So basically, you don't really want because the I is not a comma, it's just kind of broken, and it'd be a lot more legible if you dropped down to the line. And this one. So basically, by just moving that down, you're making it a bit more clearer, even though it is quite ragged still.
Right.
But it should still work.
It's defying
Next one
gravity.
is
Yeah.
like my friend. I asked like my friend on what he kind of like thing is that you should always pick a complementary second font. So some people like at the top, you've got a really crazy second font, whereas the bottom one like fits in a lot better. So that's not necessarily right. But that one, the other one's good.
Because they don't match, you mean?
Yeah, just because they're both competing really hard with each other. Like that's a very script ornate font, and the font that I've been using is like a really chunky slab serif, so it's quite modern and it's already saying quite a lot for itself. So by adding that sort of font, it's just confusing everything that's going on in the text.
I think it looks quite nice though.
But it's not like there's no like all rules can be broken, but just necessarily like if you had that say on a website and that was your thing, it'd just be putting too much in there, or if that was in a script font, it's kind of two quite conflicting different things. Whereas something simpler will kind of complement the top font. Next thing is long pieces of text can be hard to read, and basically there's like studies that have been done about with reading that 50 to 60 characters has been researched as the ideal level to read. So within like if you have a top bit like that, it becomes particularly long to read because people's heads have to go from left to right like on screen, and when it comes onto websites as well, that becomes even more difficult because again it just makes it a lot more legible. So having short chunks of text become a lot more easy to read. Yeah, and then there's also a trend at the moment, like I suppose some people just like really love putting stuff into centered text, but it just looks, again with legibility it doesn't really help, so these are ragged. So if you've got a ragged edge, like when it's like this is called a ragged edge, so when you've got two ragged edges, legibility becomes less. So that's why you only really see centered text in like wedding invitations or when it's really wanting to be aesthetic, because centered text really doesn't help that much unless it's only a few words. Poor contrast reduces visibility. I found with reading through things on web design, like a number one pet peeve with website designers today is that poor contrast can be done differently, and like people can't read it as much. So, for example, if you have black background and white text on top, it's not as easy for the eye to read. Like, of course, you can read it, but for long pieces of text, it's not as good. And things like this, you won't really see them on screen, so it's something to be aware of. Now through these lovely website designs.
That Ian's.
This is what I made. And so this is a nice example of what to do.
It's because it's so fucking.
This is lovely. Like, why is the centered text being used?
Get your attention.
Also a problem they've done here is they've done lots of different sizes of text, but not a lot differently, which is also something you should try and look out for. That if you're using different font sizes, you probably wouldn't use a document with the size 11 font and then size 10 font, because the size difference is so minuscule that people don't notice it, it doesn't draw to the eye. This is my favourite one. It actually moves.
You can't see is.
Yeah, that's what, this is an example of bad something out from the map. So yeah, so the top website tips are, don't have poor legibility, so type's normally too small. I found out that Ali can help on this, they've got apparently 12 points that they recommend minimum for having as a website.
Yes.
Another type website thing that people tend to do wrong is people use little or no leading. So, like a leading, of course, is the space between lines.
Can you do that in HTML?
Yeah.
What?
Leading?
Yeah.
What's the recommended print size?
Leading.
Font size?
Font size. Depends on font. Some fonts are different. So if you've got a
You haven't earned
or
it.
very small.
You haven't
Sorry,
earned
rather
it.
than a character font. It's probably going like 6 is probably this one. And then 8 is probably like. That's probably like with print font. People tend to like go, oh, people are going to use something really big and use 12, whereas 12 is a little bit too complicated. Whereas like
So for 10.
10 would be better, like looking neater, but you've got to like play into what you want. Also the problem with like website design is people don't really use hierarchy within the heading and the subheadings. So for example, if you had like the ones on the left, people wouldn't really understand where to find things, but by giving people clear headings and like different fonts, you can kind of like create good guidance throughout your website.
So is the top one Arial black, and then the bottom one is just Arial on the right?
Yeah, but you've got like, if you have like a subheading on it's like not
Fine. I already celebrated.
It was the celebratory dance.
And then I just whacked in a bit of inspiration. The talk. George said this and I thought it was pretty.
Please.
Amazing.
Please send what?
Okay, so Spanish cheese.
Oh.
But I thought it was quite nice for you to break rules. But there's a good advert. Smoke reduces weight and they've taken the weight of the font down.
Oh.
And then this is another advert. I thought it's helpful for things quite reason.
That's shit. Sorry.
That's alright.
Just don't like it.
It's fine. It's fine. It's good.
Is it illegal to cross the road with a mobile?
That's
No,
it.
no, I think it's just a case
No,
of
your
like,
kids
it's
will-
Oh,
kids and
right.
stuff. Like, you can-
I can show you on another photo now if anyone wants to see this.
Sh-
Is there anything else anyone wants to know?
You know, back to what? Sorry, you know, back to what you were saying about like subheadings and titles and stuff like that. Is it a rule like subheadings should be italic?
So sweet again.
It's like a style.
Sweet
Maybe
hugger.
different, but so it's just trying to make them stand out to be different from something else.
It's like the one
Yes.
on the right hand side.
Look to the good ones.
Yeah, that's
Fuck
like
off.
because they're only changed the size of the ones, there's a difference between them, and they're all the same weight as well. So maybe if like you had a bold heading or a different colour, it's just about giving guidance through the website. Like when I was looking at like top 10 errors within web design, like clarity between the
Oh, I've got
headings
it down,
and
you
others,
got
so
one
people
fine.
just don't really, you can't see what's most important. So when someone's looking at a web page, you want to think, right, that's the most
We've got
important
it.
straight
It's
away.
nice.
Like, so if you go on like BTV, you can see different headings and find different sections, whereas so some web designers don't really think about that much. And to show you around the other bit.
I like the game mechanics. Good test tube, Tom. It's like Code
What do you
Academy.
want to do?
Get this split screen up again.
You can just feel it rotting your teeth, can't you?
I want to split the screen
It's
so I can
fucking
go to the
shit.
screen again. so
You can just feel it rotting your teeth. Yep, go on.
Will do.
Hollow legs.
Hollow legs.
Hide them in your beard, or that lovely quiff of yours.
Hollow what?
I'd love to see a jelly baby party in your hair.
We can demonstrate, but not with the fizzy ones.
Yeah, no one wants sugar in their hair.
Looks like dandruff.
This-
What is happening now?
I'm going to show you.
That's a zoom around the roll.
Yeah, ready.
Does anyone Hey, can you email Mateus for us, please? Give me Mateus's email.
Does he normally email back quite quickly, Ali? Yeah, I'll send you
You will change the video display.
Yeah.
So change it to that one.
Tell him you've been looking at key release as an option, but we're trying to figure out how to get it so that the function has to be pressed more than once.
Is this the...
Should we create a string or an array? Just to make it sound as though we're trying.
We know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Is that too small for you to see?
We are a little bit. Why is that centered?
I'm going to show you how to change them.
Oh, right.
So basically on Illustrator, this is probably doing this for. Some things to watch out for is so obviously you can change the different ways things are centered on this little panel here. Why it's so simple, but generally Illustrator is set to have hyphenation on it. So hyphenation is where obviously if the box is too small, it'll do that, which generally isn't, you don't want that. So where you turn that off is this little box here. Turn hyphenation off. What else can we do? So we talked about the leading. The leading can be seen here. So that's obviously small leading. So that's that little box with two A's on top of each other.
Should the leading match the font size?
Look, if you do like that's called, I can't remember, it's called perfect leading if it's done like that. So that's 48, which generally looks fine. That works quite well, like Helvetica and things like that.
You can use like Fibonacci sequencing. Like you can use that within type, like they use in architecture. So you don't have to, but you can, and it works. Like so, if everything relates to is within Fibonacci sequence, all the different numbers you're using, and goes up in that order, it gives a quite good feeling.
What would the auto be on that?
I will.
You also...
They
I don't
also
know if it
generally
matches.
be a bit more like, so
Never matches.
also on this would
Yeah,
be
you're probably better off right
that, so auto is a bit more, so I normally take it down to about
I haven't copied the code in either.
So that
Would you do it less than the actual font size, Joe?
not generally. I always normally go less. It depends what font it is and how big you're having it and what sort of text it is. But say if it was just like 3 lines of just having like the stuff I did yesterday, that's less than the font size. Because you want it to be smaller, it just looks too big. So it's about proportionally. If it's something that's not that legible, it's not that big thing, you can take it down. But generally the legibility, I wouldn't go less than that.
What would you do with leading when, say, the first line is 48, but the second line's like 32, and then the third line was like small like with that whole heading, subheading?
Did it? You wouldn't do that because it would be bad. No, like you can change it to be different.
But would you go by the, would you go by the
You always go by
leading off the top? Or
Leading
the
works
bottom?
by the bottom line, so that line there, if I move it up, it works by the line below it, that's what moves it down that way.
But like, would you increase the space in regards to the bottom line below, or the how much smaller the line below is? So the line in front on top is larger, or would you go by the larger type size?
I don't know, it's probably just do what look. I'm sure there's a word. But other things like there is so if you've got a letter, like especially when you're doing kerning, the main thing that's normally a pitfall that people don't notice is numbers. Like for example, like 10, like that space there. Even if you're doing short sparse text, I'd always change the numbers. Even if I wasn't going to kern anything else, I'd go through the text and kern the numbers. Because basically, there's normally quite a big space when they're naturally set. So to change leading in a little space, you can be using this bit here.
Leading or kerning?
Oh, sorry, kerning.
Okay.
So the kerning would be this little one. Basically, a type to do it is if you hold down Alt on your keyboard, you can then like use your little arrows on your keyboard to move it in. So you can move it in like that.
Oh, so you can make it individual to each little bit?
Yeah, that's what's kerning. Kerning is making it individual to each bit. I didn't talk to you about tracking, but tracking is the whole paragraph and the space between it is full. Kerning is just between the individual letters of the word.
What happens if you highlight the whole thing in kern?
So if you've got this piece of text here, if I select it here, you can use a tracking, which is AV. And so generally, when people are like, I've heard there's a corridor when people are using her Excel, they normally take the tracking down by 10, because it fits quite well for that, normally it's quite spread out. So like, if I do fixed streams, if you take the tracking down by 75, that's what happens, which causes them that. Isn't there illegible? We would really want to do that. But you use the tracking, well, for some fonts, let's say I was using earlier, you might want to put a bit more tracking in. So you might want to do like +10 or something for that, because it's quite a tight font. So if you're going to use that font for big pieces of type, you might use it for a bigger area. Basically, if you're going to track though, you can't, see if you bring up the kerning that already kerned this big piece all together, you can't do that because obviously it's just the one word, but you can change it to auto, optical, and metric. I don't really know what they mean. I think they're to do with where your eye sit, but if I was to look at this word here, like so if looking at this type now, what's the trouble there? No, right now. So if you just write, say, below, in, see that space there is proportional to all the other spaces between the lines, like in comparison to all the different spaces. So with below, because the double L, you probably want to take that into. Then that looks a lot, it fits in a lot better with the big.
You would always try and match that space.
Yeah, you always try to match that space. So of course, if you were doing a big format type, you would probably just do like when I used to do stuff for Adidas, because it was like they do like load up, like it was because of store brand, you have to go through and kern quite a lot of it because it's going to be, it's not just on screen, it's going to be quite big when it's in store, so you have to go through and do quick kerning. But to do that, I'd probably just go through really quickly and just think, oh, what are the main areas? So like H and I just go through the whole document going, take that down to the double L there. I know that's going to be bad, so I know that's going to be bad. But then you don't want to, I'm really bad for making the kerning too tight, so you don't want to make it too tight. You don't want to like have everything like that, because that just makes it.
Can you type in Willis for me?
Is it going to be anything where there's like two parallel lines then, like the G and the I?
So G and the I, that's bad kerning, so you want to take that in.
Can you type in Willis?
Yeah. You know which unit to Willie.
No, I just want to know how you'd kern that.
Okay, so Willis, like that.
Yeah, oh, so you'd match the L and the I into one space on either side.
So for Willis, yeah, you probably want like that seems quite wide, so you probably take that out and do it like about right.
Tricky one though.
Yeah, it's just I mean like I'm not an expert on it. I think it's something that you always learn to get more at. Like if you work with the good types of engineers, you learn to do it really well. But generally, as a rule, like you've got to watch out for double L's because they're quite pitfall. Numbers are quite pitfall to just do quickly, and then things like obviously like capital AW, there's a big space in that, so you can try and take that down a bit. So it's not like I think it's just being aware about it. Because if you think about like 11 again, like it takes it down quite a lot, whereas so you don't really want those.
Okay.
Do you want to know how to put something onto a curve?
Oh yeah, just for me. So.
Okay. So this is what onto a curve. You go on the type window.
Right.
Aerial path tool.
Okay.
And then
Simple.
Laughing at you.
For not knowing.
Yeah, because I spent 500 quid on a graphics course that I didn't even attend.
Bit cheap.
yeah. Yeah, then like you'll work right there. So basically, yeah, to illustrate the type bits, you've got these little tools here, and then you basically want your character and your paragraph tools out mostly. Another little interesting one to have is your glyphs tab. Like when I was talking to you earlier about like talked about the glyph and you have the FF. Like so glyphs basically is there's all different characters in the typeface. So if you wanted to write, say, can you think of a word for like it?
What?
Say it.
So copy like that f3.com, so you might want to use the delay for that, so you just go through the delay. I think actually there's an easier way of doing it in InDesign.